All right. So, my name is Danielle Pape, and I know that I think there's just one person that doesn't know me, but I have been training for almost 20 years and teaching classes for almost 20 years, and I love what I do. So, everybody kind of sent me not everybody, some people sent me some questions that they wanted me to go over, and then I'm going to go over those in the order in which I got them. And then there's also going to be a question and answer at the end. So if you have any questions that maybe I don't answer, then you can always pipe in at the end and ask those questions. Or you always feel free to text message me or email me or call me and ask me the questions also. So I'm going to go in the order in which I received them. So the first question that I had gotten was, what are the signs of a fast metabolism? Someone has been working out for a little bit and she wanted to know if maybe there was a way to tell whether or not her metabolism has gotten any higher. One of the ways that you can tell that is if you are like hungry all the time. If you're constantly starving, then your body's probably working at a pretty good rate, which means that you'll probably have to eat a little bit more consistently in order to keep up so you're not starving all the time. Another way to tell that is if you get like hot and sweaty, and we're not talking like hot flashes, but if you're exercising and you get a little bit hotter quicker than you normally do, that's also a good sign that your metabolism is pretty high. Another reason or way to tell is if you have a lot of energy. If you're like zooming throughout the day and you're not like lagging, you don't feel like you need to lay down all the time or sit down all the time, that's a really good way to tell whether or not you have a good metabolism. You may also notice that exercise gives you a little bit more energy, and that makes a whole lot of sense because when you exercise, you're increasing your metabolism by doing the exercise. So a low body fat percentage, if you're exercising consistently, will also give you obviously a faster metabolism. If you really want to know what your metabolism is, what your basal metabolic rate is, which is the amount of calories that you're burning when you're just sitting down all day long, you can go get that tested. So if you went to a doctor's office, they can test you for that. The only reason that you would want to know that, though, unless you're just curious, is if you're trying to, say, lose weight, then it's a good idea to know what your basal metabolic rate is, like how many calories you need during the day, period, just to survive. So that way, if you want to lose weight, you know how many calories that you need to burn every day, and you also know the amount of calories that you should be taking in exactly every day. You can get like a rough estimate on how many calories you should be taking in, but you would have a better idea of that if you knew what your basal metabolic rate is. The second question I got was, how do you handle a weight loss plateau? Well, we all plateau. It's just a thing that we do. The biggest thing that you can do to try to get over your plateau is to change it up. So there are 4 exercise principles that you want to look at, which are frequency, intensity, time, and type. So if you change up any one of those, then it should help with that plateau. So your body adapts super quickly to the exercises that you're doing. So anybody that takes my classes or trains with me knows that we change up the exercise pretty consistently, or we'll add repetitions, or we'll add exercises, or we'll add time or type. So that way your body doesn't adapt to the exercises that you're doing. When it adapts, that's pretty much the point that you're going to plateau. I'm a huge fan of progression though. So if you're starting out or you feel like you want to increase your calories burned, you want to lose a little bit of weight, maybe you have to lose, a few pounds, or maybe you have to lose a lot of pounds. You need to start slow and then give yourself room to grow. So if you start out going like 6 days a week and you're burning all these calories and you're not taking in like a ton of calories, or say you're only taking in, let's say, 1,200 calories a day, and you want to work out 6 days a week. Well, after 6, 7, 8 weeks of that, and you're constantly losing weight, which is great, you'll stop. Well, from there, where do you go? If you're already working out 6 days a week and you're already at a very low amount of calories, you can't drop your calories anymore because you'll be starving or you won't have any energy whatsoever, and you can't really increase the exercise that you're doing. So you're already like capped out. So if you start small, maybe you start training 2 or 3 days a week, and then you're doing your cardio like 3 days a week. Okay, you're losing weight, and then you stop losing weight after like week 4. Okay, so then at that point we would add maybe 10 minutes to your cardio, or we would add another day of cardio or the type of cardio to try to challenge your body and make sure that it's still burning enough calories. Food log is also really important. If you're plateauing, then you probably should be keeping track of your food. I also, when I tell people to keep a food log, if they want to keep a food log, I'm happy to go over it. But if they do a food log, you want to write down what time you're eating and approximate portion sizes of what you're eating. So that way you know how many times a day you're eating, what time you're getting up, what time you're going to bed. The biggest problem that people have when they're plateauing is eating out and alcohol. Weekends in general, right? If you are going to parties, we don't go to a lot of parties anymore because of COVID, but even if you're going somewhere, you're having a friend over for dinner or something like that, you might eat really well 5 days a week or even 6 days a week. But if you go out to dinner, right, that could increase your calories by even up to 600 to 1200 calories, and it all adds up during the week. So say you want to lose 1 pound per week, that's 3,500 calories that you have to burn per week. So that's 500 calories a day. And that's really hard to do. 500 calories a day is not easy to do. So you can tweak just that little bit of going out or eating poorly on the weekends or parties or alcohol and those things, just as long as you're consistent. And even if it's just for a couple of weeks, just to get over that plateau, you can do that. And the last thing for the plateauing is to really be aware of your carb consumption. So I'm not a big believer in not eating carbs at all. However, if you're eating carbs in the evening, like at dinner or after dinner, there's really no room for them there because you're going to use those carbs for energy throughout the day. But if you're plateauing, then you should really be watching where you're consuming your carbs and how many carbs per day that you're consuming. So when I'm looking at a food log and someone's telling me they're having a hard time losing weight and I see like, say, couple pieces of toast for breakfast and some brown rice for lunch and then some pasta for dinner, I can tell you it's probably too many carbs. I usually just say if you're trying to lose weight, you can pick 2 carby things a day, and typically they go before 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're in the morning or they're in around lunchtime. The third question I got was how to tell if your metabolism is slow and how do you increase your metabolism. So this person said that she ate 1,200 calories for years per day, and she feels like she damaged her metabolism, which makes sense. So 1,200 calories, some people might be able to sustain off of 1,200 calories, but the American College of Sports Medicine recommends that you're eating no less than 1,400 calories a day. If you eat less than what your body needs, that will slow your metabolism down. So you have to think of your body, I'm sure you might have heard this before, as like a fire. So you're constantly fueling the fire, right? Like healthy foods speed up your metabolism placed throughout the day. Every few hours, 2.5 to 3 hours. If you can eat something small, even, it doesn't have to be a large meal, but that will speed up your metabolism. If you feel like you're not hungry very often, people will just say to me, I just don't feel like eating because I'm not hungry. Or you don't have enough energy, you feel like your energy is down. Or if you have a higher body fat percentage, your metabolism is probably not as high as it could be. So those are ways that you can tell whether or not maybe you might have a slower metabolism. You can change your metabolism though. And again, like I said, by doing those, 5 to 6 small meals a day, that will help with your metabolism. The biggest problem, why people mess up their metabolism, and I see it all the time, is by doing the yo-yo dieting, where they'll do South Beach and then they'll do Atkins, and then they're counting their macros, and then they're doing this and then they're doing that. But then nothing ever kind of sticks because it's basically you can do it for a little bit of time, but you can't really, it's not sustainable because we all, again, we have to go to parties and we have to live and we have to go to dinner and enjoy food and enjoy people. So no yo-yo dieting and no excessive exercise. So just listen to your body and be mindful of your nutrition and your exercise, and that will help with your metabolism. Number 4 was, how much sodium should I aim for a day? So that's a good question. So if you're normal and you don't have any sort of like blood pressure or sodium issues or high risk, you could probably say it around like 2,300 milligrams per day. And if you are high risk, they say like 1,500 milligrams per day. The places where you're going to get the most sodium, if you're looking at like a food label, are basically in processed foods. There's a lot of sodium in processed foods. If you're looking at a nutrition label, we'll go over this a little bit more later, but when you're looking at a nutrition label and it tells you what the sodium is on the nutrition label, you ideally don't want that number to be 2 times more than what the calories are. So if the calories are 200, then the sodium should not be more than 400. But a lot of the processed foods will have the higher sodium. So will eating out. If you go out to eat, they pretty much add salt to everything. They even, they baste steaks and they baste fish and chicken. So even the things that you don't even think are getting salt added to it, it's definitely getting added to it, and that will increase your sodium intake as well. So even if you can't, maybe you do a little bit more one day, then maybe the next day you don't do as much. So it kind of balances out at the end of the week. The next exercise is, how do you develop a reasonable food plan with a carb and protein balance? So for this, the recommendations for the carb, the protein, and the fat. Okay, so the recommendations for that would be 45 to 65% carbs, and then 10 to 30% protein, and then 25 to 35% fats. I take it down even just a little bit more than that, and I say like around 55% for carbs, 30% for protein, and 15% for fats. The best way to try to track that, because it's like you're looking at all these numbers and it's really confusing, and I get it. So the best way to track that would be to get an app. So MyFitnessPal app has the macros at the end of the day. So if you are tracking like your food on MyFitnessPal, then you can look, and or if you have another app that tracks the macros, it's the easiest way to do it. It's not easy to plug in the food. It's kind of a pain at first. But it does a pie graph at the end. So it'll show you, okay, this is what your percentage of was for protein today, this is what your percentage of was for carbs, and this is what your percentage was for fats. And then it'll tell you where it should have been. So that'll tell you, all right, well, maybe I need to work on my fats a little bit. I usually aim to eat a carb and a protein at every meal. Again, that's another way to try to increase your metabolism. So remember that fruits and vegetables are also carbs. So we're not just talking about, breads and pastas and cereals and oatmeal. So vegetables are also a carb as well. So I'm just going to give you an example of what like a good day would look like. So if you did meal 1, you could do 2 eggs and oatmeal. Meal 2 would be like a little bit of yogurt and an apple. And if that's too much food for you, remember, you don't have to do a full serving of it, right? You could do, say, half an apple and half a yogurt. So meal 3 would be a salad with like chicken and quinoa. So you get those grains at lunchtime as well with your protein. Meal 4 would be baby carrots and natural peanut butter. And meal 5 would be fish, spinach, and cauliflower. So that's just like an example of what a really good day would look like. If you are looking at your food log, if you keep a food log, I usually say pick 2 fats. So if that means that maybe you're going to have like a half of an avocado for breakfast, then maybe for lunch you have, a low-fat cottage cheese or even a low-fat string cheese or something like that. So that is a fat. Or natural peanut butter for a snack, or a handful of almonds. So if you pick 2 a day, then that's probably enough. If you're eating meat and you're not strictly vegetarian, you are also getting fats when you are eating meat. So you're probably fine with your fat threshold if you're just picking 2 a day. So that is that question. All right, then we have the next one. So the next question is cardio Is a cardio workout still beneficial to me if my rate on my Fitbit doesn't move from fat burn zone to cardio zone? Okay, so you can also tell this if you don't have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something that you're tracking that on, and say you're using a piece of exercise equipment and you're holding on to it and it's measuring what your heart rate is and it's telling you on there, okay, you're in fat burn zone, you're in cardio zone. So let me explain to you what the zones are real quick. So the fat burning zone is exactly what it says. It is it's where you are at, your heart rate is at a rate where you're using fat as your energy source, okay? It's good for endurance, and it's also good for calorie burn. Cardio zone is 70 to 85% of your maximum heart rate, and that uses carbohydrates as your energy source, and you'll burn more calories because your heart rate goes up higher. So the higher your heart rate goes up, the more calories you're going to be burning, and it also improves aerobic fitness. So I am going to have you, if you have a pen or paper next to you or your phone or whatever, I'm just going to have you calculate what your heart rate zones are real quick, so that way you have an idea of what I'm talking about, okay? So we're going to do your maximum heart rate. So if you go 220 minus your age, okay, so I'm going to say I'm 40. I'm not quite 40 yet, but I almost am. So, and it's easier to calculate than 39. So I'm 220 minus 40 and I'm at 180. All right, so 180, and then you multiply that by 0.50%, or let's say 0.55%, okay? So I'm sure you guys have a calculator there. I do not. So, all right. All right, so at 55%, I'm at 99. And now we're gonna take that same number, so 220 minus 40, and we're gonna go 180 again for me, but you would do your age. So 220 minus your age, you come up with that number, and then you're gonna multiply it again by, say, 0.80. So for that one, I have 144. All right, so that tells me that around 99, I'm like in my fat burning zone, and that's probably, I would guess, like 99 to like 135 would be my fat burning zone, and probably 135 to like 170 would be like in the cardio zone. So that's how you know. Another way that I really like to do it, if you don't want to measure what your heart rate is just by using the rate of perceived exertion. So that's a scale of 1 to 10. It's just how your body feels. So you don't have to calculate anything. You don't have to look at your heart rate, but like 1 is like basically sitting or doing like a leisurely walk in the park. And 10 is you cannot go any faster at all. You feel like you're gonna keel over. You can't breathe because you're like at max capacity. So if you are in your fat burning zone, you're probably in between like 4 and 6 on that level. And if you are in your cardio zone, then you are in between like say 7 and 9 or 10. So it's hard. You should be winded. It should be hard to talk. Definitely cannot sing in that cardio zone. So, and it says, which is it beneficial? Okay, so the next question, is it beneficial to me if my rate is not in the cardio zone? It depends on your weight, on what your goals are. Okay, if your goal is just to make your heart stronger and be healthier and to increase your endurance, or just to move, if you're having a bad day and you really don't feel like working that hard, then you can stay in the fat burning zone. If your goal is to lose weight, then we really want to do the maximum amount of calories that you can burn, which means that you need to get your heart rate elevated enough where you're burning more calories, however that is. So the next question is, what are the disadvantages of eating too much protein, like too many protein bars? They're like candy bars with protein. They're so good. So personally, I do use protein bars and I use protein shakes. Not everybody's a fan, and that's okay. So if you can get your protein in other ways, your meats or your low-fat cheeses or whatever, then that's fine. If you want to use a protein shake or a protein bar, again, that's fine. It's an easy grab snack. The disadvantages is that your body can only process so much protein at one time. So if you like maybe binge eat a bunch of protein bars, or you have like a couple of protein shakes because you think you're starving, and it'll be good because it'll make you feel better. The protein bars usually have like anywhere between like 13 and 20 grams of protein. So if you eat like 2 of them or 3, that's a lot of protein. So your body can only process so much of that. So leftover protein that is not turned into amino acids to be used by your body gets urinated out. And then excess protein can also be stored as fat. And the other problem is that a lot of those protein bars and protein shakes use whey protein, which is a milk-based protein. So if you are lactose intolerant, it's probably not going to feel too great on your stomach if you have a bunch of it. So that is that question. The next question is, what are the most important things to look at on a food label when comparing? Okay, that's a good one. So the thing with the food labels, the most important thing I would say is to look at the serving size. A lot of times, I think that we're, as a society, getting better at looking at the serving sizes of things, but you know, it's really easy. Say if you were gonna have a bowl of cereal, it's really easy to just pour a bowl of cereal into a bowl and not really like see what the exact serving size is. The problem with that is that say if it's supposed to be half a cup and then you do a whole cup, you're not only doubling the calories, but you're also doubling everything else that's in there, which for cereal, for example, you would be doubling the carbs. The carbs are gonna be like super, super, super high, which is also not good for your body. So I would look at the serving size. I would look at the calories. When you are trying to eat, say if you're trying to eat those 5 to 6 mom meals a day, that means that you're eating like 300 to 400 calories per meal. So ideally you're not eating like 1,200 calories at one meal and then 100 calories at another meal and then maybe another 50 here and there all over the place. So try to keep it a little bit consistent. The other thing that I look at are fats. When you are looking at a nutrition label, your fat, your calories from fat should not be more than 30% of what the calories are. So say for instance, your calories are at 160, okay? And it says that 90 calories of those are from fat, then you're way too high, way too high. So the fats are something I look at. You wanna make sure that you wanna pretty much stay clear of trans fats, and your saturated fats are supposed to be less than 10% of your calories per day. The next thing that I would look at is the sodium. And again, the sodium, same thing. So like I had said earlier, you want to make sure that it's no more than 2 times the amount of what the calories are. And also the sugars. I look at the sugars. So when you're, especially the sugars are hidden in things like yogurts. Yogurts are sometimes very high in sugars, and obviously juices. So if you're looking at a yogurt that has like say more than 7 grams of sugar, that's a lot of sugar. So I would probably try to look at those things on a nutrition label. The next question is, how does drinking water and staying hydrated make and help you lose weight? I love this question because I don't get asked it very often, but drinking water is obviously so good for you. So there are many reasons why that is, it can help you lose weight. So one is that it's an appetite suppressant. When you're drinking water, you're making your stomach full. So that way, say if you drink a big glass of water before you have a meal, you're probably more apt to not eating as much if you have that big glass of water first, because it's just gonna take up room in your stomach. It removes toxins from your body, which is super important for weight loss. It can replace caloric drinks, which is huge, right? So if you're drinking any sort of teas or pop or anything like that, juices, those have a lot of calories in them, and so water can take the place of that. It also helps to lubricate muscles, ligaments, and joints, and it decreases cramps and fatigue when you are hydrated. So men are supposed to be drinking 3.7 liters and women are 2.7 liters. The next exercise, is there an optimal time of day to work out, morning versus evening, and how long before bed? Okay, so it depends on how your body feels. Honestly, like that's pretty much what it always says. So if you feel best in the afternoon, you work out in the afternoon. If you feel best in the morning, you work out in the morning. Uh, and you want to try to limit your vigorous exercise though 60 to 90 minutes before bed to make sure that you're calmed down. But moderate exercise, again, just listen to your body. Sometimes it affects people and sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to piggyback another exercise on, or another question onto that one though, because I got a question about headaches in the morning. So it says, why do I get headaches in the morning if I work out past 7 p.m.? And it says I get to bed by 9:30 and wake up around 5:30. Sometimes the headaches wake me up around 3, and I drink 6 ounces of water before bed. Okay, so just disclaimer here, I'm not a medical professional, so I can't answer that completely, but if I had to guess, without looking at what the rest of your day looks like for water or your nutrition, either, and depending on what the exercise is that you're doing that's causing the headaches, I would say that it might be like a neck or trap strain if you're doing anything that I know that when I do certain exercises, inevitably every day afterwards, like after and the day after, I get headaches from it, from like trap strain. So it could be neck or trap strain and the pillow or a sleeping position. But then there's also something called exercise-induced headaches, which is like a jogger's headache, or it's called an orgasmic headache. So when you exercise, your head and your scalp and your neck need more blood to circulate, and the blood vessels dilate and can raise, so it causes like an exertional headache. So, but you need to talk to your doctor about that one. So that was a guess. The next one is, what are 3 simple things to do every day to boost your metabolism? Sorry, now I'm getting quicker, but Zoom just gave me a little countdown here, so I want to make sure to get some question and answers in. What are 3 simple things to do every day to boost your metabolism? Okay, strength training boosts your metabolism, or exercise or moving in general does. Eating 5 to 6 small meals a day, like we had said. Getting enough sleep, and a bonus one is drinking green tea or coffee or eating spicy foods. Those things help to heat your body up and increase your metabolism. The next question, I don't know, I keep saying exercise. What are the pros and cons of pre and post workout drinks? Okay, let me explain to you what they are first, because everybody might not know what they are. So pre-workout drinks are usually things that you, it's something that you would drink or even a supplement between 30 and 60 minutes before you exercise. It usually has a mix of nutrients, vitamins, amino acids, caffeine, and sugar. It's meant to boost your energy, create better focus, and to increase blood flow. The pros to that is that you'll have that energy boost. You may focus a little bit more. It's faster for muscle building. You have more stamina and less soreness. The cons is pretty much if you have a sensitivity to caffeine, or if you have like a weird allergic reaction to it. Those are the cons. The post-workout, which would be like a protein shake, basically, are nutrients, protein, branched chain amino acids, and they're meant for muscle building, repair, and soreness. And they're to take within 30 minutes after exercising. They help with faster muscle repair, helps in building muscle. They can be used as a snack. And it also suppresses the appetite because you're getting all that protein in at one time. The cons is that you might have stomach irritation from it, like I had mentioned before, because a lot of it, you can find different kinds of protein, but some people just don't take protein that easily in chunks. And the tastes are not necessarily the best. And then I got, what are the benefits of certain exercises like pulsing, circles, and reaching your arms over your head? I like this exercise, this question. I like this question because nobody's ever asked me that before. So the pulses and the circles that we do, they require you to stay in a shorter range of motion. So you're constantly working that muscle. So it fatigues the muscle and it makes you stronger, and it increases your muscular endurance. Whereas like a leg lift, if you're on your elbows and knees and you're lifting your legs all the way up and down, you get that little bit of of rest at the bottom before you have to contract the muscle again when you come back up. And then reaching the arms over the head is beneficial because it's functional, right? We have to reach up to put dishes away or maybe towels up in a cabinet. So you are working all of the muscles here. You're working the shoulders, you're working the neck muscles, you're working your triceps. So it's good for you. And if you're talking about the bar exercises where you're like kind of swinging the arms up and down, that increases your heart rate because your arms are up over the head the entire time. It helps with coordination, and it also uses your core a little bit more. So I have a few more questions, but those are the ones that I went over because I got them a little earlier, and I don't know how much time I have left for the question and answer, and I don't want them to shut off before I am able to answer anything for anybody that didn't send in. So does anybody have any questions for me? Oh, thank you, Allie. Yeah, go ahead. Allie, you have a question? You can unmute.
Sorry, I'm so not used to Zoom.
That's all right.
Okay, so you said that you need to burn 3,500 calories in 1 week to burn or to lose 1 pound. Is that and that's 500 calories per day? Is that 500 active calories?
Active.
Or
Active
so you
calories.
have to be exercising. Okay.
Yes, which is a lot. That it takes a lot to do that. So and if you're losing more than that a week, it may not be fat. It might be like water weight. So 3,500 calories for fat.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anybody else? I know I'm running out. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I got a question. What about intermittent fasting? What do you think about that?
I think that it's probably a good way to boost your metabolism and probably jumpstart a weight loss. I'm not a huge fan of like anything that's like excessive. You know what I mean? Like something that's not. I know a lot of people that have tried it. They love it. They lose weight, but they can't stick with it, right? So I'm game for anything that you can stick with. But I think that it's probably if you can do it short term, it probably would be a nice way to jumpstart your weight loss. Okay, I think we're out of time, guys. But if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to email me or call me or text me, and I will send out the all these answers to you and then more that I had over the weekend. So I hope you have a great weekend, and thanks so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.